Okay, hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters. In today's episode, we have so many insane myths that you guys suggested on the last episode. So, just like always, if you do have a myth you would like me to test in the next or future episodes of the Fortnite Mythbusters, make sure to go down in the comments and drop a comment of that myth for a pretty good chance to be featured. Also, guys, over the past week, we hit 800,000 subscribers, which is insane. I just want to say a massive thank you, and if you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure to join the 20% of my viewers who are subscribed to the channel to help us on that road to 1 mil. Also, if you guys could smash a like, let's see if we could smash 15,000 likes on today's episode. That would be insane. But without further ado, let's get right on into today's video. Kicking things off, jumping into the first myth. The first myth is, will henchmen gain shield or health from a slurp truck? Now, located around the map, there's these slurp trucks where if you break it, basically you gain about 100 HP, and it's literally just free health and is very, very good for, you know, if you're in the middle of a fight or something. When I tested this myth out, I got myself a shadow henchman disguise and went over to Pleasant Park because that was, you know, the easiest henchman to bring to the nearby slurp truck. And after a very, very long battle trying to get the henchman all the way over to the slurp truck with a fishing rod, I managed to do it, and clearly he healed a little bit. You know, his players showed up in the bright blue color, which your player even does when you do break it. I then tested to see how much health the henchman actually had after he broke the slurp truck, and it took 7 shots with a green AR to fully knock him down. So the henchmen actually do heal from the slurp truck, because with a regular shadow henchman, if you kill him with a a green AR without him taking any damage, it only takes 5 shots. Going into the next myth, is, what happens when a henchman boss lands on top of a launch pad or jumps on top of a launch pad? Either way. Now, this is a myth that you would really never test in a real game, because 1, you're wasting a launch pad, and 2, whenever you see the boss, you just kill it immediately. That way you can get the mythic weapon as well as a vault key card for, you know, some pretty insane loot. When I tried this myth out, I went over to the grotto and got myself a launch pad from a supply drop. I then flew back to the agency and found Midas, who was just kind of roaming in the hallways. I then broke the roof, made a pathway for him to launch into the air, and surprisingly, he somewhat kind of glided. I don't even know how to explain the path that he took in midair. After Midas finally landed up on the roof, he was kind of bugging out for a minute. I then broke the floor so maybe he could go back to his original loot path, and for the first time ever, I actually saw Midas standing outside. I mean, he ended up just walking back to, you know, his original path that he was taking, but it was kind of cool to see him, you know, walking outside for once. This was actually a pretty cool myth. Going into the next myth, is, do decoys gain health through Slurpy Swamp's water? Now, obviously, this is another myth that you never really notice in game. 1, because not too many people use decoys, and 2, it's in Slurpy Swamp's water, and usually the decoys will just run away if you're near them. When I tried this myth out, I dropped my friend a decoy grenade. He was full HP, by the way, no shield whatsoever. He then threw down a decoy into the water, and surprisingly, my first shot actually cracked the shield off of the henchman, therefore kind of proving that they do end up gaining health, you know, through the water. My friend was then full 200 HP and threw down a decoy, and the decoys clearly do not mimic the health of the person who actually throws them down. This decoy, he had no shield at all, even though the player who threw it did. Going into the next myth, is, will your glider protect you from shots up above? Now, this myth is actually very, very helpful, and if you do play competitive Fortnite, this might even, you know, maybe save your life in a game, or you might learn something new right now. This most likely will help you if you're in the middle of an end game and people place down a launch pad because of the first polling zone and they need to rotate in. If you are getting beamed out of the air, I would not really rely on your glider to protect you, because even from the above, you still will be able to damage players through the glider. We tested this with the 2 types of gliders, the first one being the umbrella and the second one being, you know, the glider that you kind of hang from. I don't really know, just kind of the default glider. I guess that's the best way to explain it. And both times the bullets literally went directly through the glider. It did not protect you one bit, and you might not want to ever rely on a glider to save your life in an endgame ever again. I don't think we really have anyways. Honestly though, I think it would be reasonable for them to make the gliders, you know, maybe bulletproof, or somewhat if you spray the gliders enough, it'll end up breaking mid-air, similar to, you know, the Kingsman umbrella, how it would break after mid-air for a minute. But I guess Fortnite's kind of just going with the flow and doing what they're doing now, and it seems to be working. Going straight into the next myth, is, can henchmen gain more than 200 HP if you heal him from a slurp truck and then the henchman gets siphoned from a kill? In the last episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, we tested to see if the henchman will actually gain siphon health after killing an enemy player in an arena game, and surprisingly he does. Similar to the Infinity Blade where you actually get up to 200 shield and 200 health, people were wondering if it might be the exact same outcome with the Henchmen, even though, you know, they're kind of like a bot. For this myth, I did the exact same route as I did in the very first myth in today's episode. I brought the Henchman over to the slurp truck, that way he was full 200 HP. I then had my teammate, and keep in mind we're in an arena game, get full killed by the Henchman. He finally bled out, and then I shot the Henchman with a green AR, and it took him about 7 hits to full kill him. This is compared to a default Henchman who, you know, hasn't taken any damage, and it takes him 5 hits to go down. So, Henchmans, they go up to a max of 200 HP, just like a regular player. Going into the next myth is, can you harpoon a shield potion or consumable while it's in air after someone threw it? Now, Fortnite has this really cool feature where you could actually, you know, throw a med kit, throw, I guess, a big shield, any consumable, just like how you can throw a grenade, and it's pretty helpful in a regular game. A lot of people are wondering if you have a harpoon gun or maybe even a fishing rod, if you could snag, you know, the consumable or whatever you threw out of midair and maybe pull it towards yourself. But I tested this so many times. We tested it for a good like 5-10 minutes, and so many of my harpoon shots literally went directly through the shield potion, but it never seemed to ever catch on. Honestly, it doesn't really make any sense because the consumable is, you know, it's something that you can actually pull it to yourself. It's literally an item, and if the shield potion's on the ground, you can pull it to yourself with a harpoon gun, but when it's flying through midair, it doesn't let you. Another strange thing is that you are actually able to pull items to yourself while they're floating in midair without being thrown. Going into the next myth is, what happens when you throw a crash pad at someone while they're in the middle of shaking down a player or even a henchman? Now, for this myth, we tested it with a henchman because obviously it acts the exact same way as a player, and to be honest, it was way easier to do it this way and way quicker. Friend shook down the henchman and I threw the crash pad. It showed that his player just kind of stood there for a second, then immediately they launched up into the air. Same thing with the henchman. He was knocked on the ground, kind of bouncing. But when it was the other way around, I was shaking down the henchman and my friend threw the crash pad. It was a way different outcome, and it was pretty cool. You'll actually still be holding the henchman in midair and continue doing the shakedown animation until it's fully complete. You'll pull out the little iPad, the tablet, whatever you like to call it, and continue bouncing as well as the henchman. And the cool thing is that the little red dot that appears above the player or the henchman's head, it will continue tracking the player. To be honest, I don't really see this ever happening in a game, but I guess it can kind of screw you over because you're still stuck in the animation and you're completely vulnerable in midair. You can't build, emote, or do anything to cancel it. Going into the next myth is, what happens when the final 2 players die to drowning at the exact same time? Now, this myth was actually very difficult to pull off. I tested it multiple times just to get the timing perfected, and I finally was able to get somewhat of an outcome, or at least some sort of answer. We've tested out similar myths in the past where both players jump off the edge of the map and die to the water, as well as, you know, both players died to spike trap at the exact same time, fall damage, and all of them was mainly ping related, and that was basically the exact same thing in this situation. Me and my second account, who was on my phone, I was monitoring, you know, the health to make sure it was going down at the exact same time, and trust me, you're gonna have to take my word for it, but the health was going down at the exact same time. We both started with 100, then, you know, 98, blah blah blah, you know, going all the way down, and it was really just ping based, which really didn't make sense because we were literally connected to the exact same network. Just to answer this question once and for all, you cannot get a tie game in Fortnite, at least that we know of. I've never seen anybody actually get a tie game unless it was in like a creative, because I know there's a few creative game modes that it'll actually say tie royale. Going into the last and final myth, this myth is, can you pick up a reboot card after you get a victory royale? Now, originally for this myth, I was testing to see if you could pick up a reboot card while you're knocked, but then a lot of people, you know, I realized that it was kind of too obvious for that myth. I was in a custom matchmaking, and when my teammate fully died, it said victory royale. It acts the exact same thing as the regular game, and I then landed by the reboot card, and surprisingly it did allow me to pick it up, which is strange because in a regular game, if you're knocked on the ground, it'll automatically revive your player and you'll kind of stand up. Now, if you could actually reboot your teammate after picking it up when you know, a game fully ends, that's something we might have to test for a future episode. Someone comment that down below so you can remind me, please. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode. I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, make sure to leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel if you are new. Turn on post notifications to never miss another episode of the Fortnite Mythbusters, or just another video by me in general. Make sure to go follow me on all my socials: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and I will see you guys next time.